Welcome. It's a great privilege and an honor for me to introduce this important ceremony. We always say that people are the heart of everything you do, but anyone who knew James Jones know what a remarkable human being he was, and we will hear more about that. I thought we could shorten the name of this award to the James Award, But you will hear a lot. I think it's such a great tribute to James Jones that we are going to honor everything he cared about, everything he felt, and what he exemplified in his own career in the young people coming up through medicine now. Everyone should know that through the generosity of many, including anonymous donors, we raised an endowment for this, so this is perpetual. This does not depend on the whim of the Mount Sinai Health System or my boss or anyone else. It is restricted by New York state law to this purpose, and will spin off money every year to continue these celebrations. And it's been set up with leaders from St. Luke's and Roosevelt, from medicine and chief medical officers, et cetera, to be able to continue to give this award to remarkable emerging leaders. So without any further ado, Tim Day, our historian, is going to come up here and say a few things.
It's never good when you're on the archives committee and they start asking you to give an oral history, which is happening. Wow, what a great turnout, and so thank you all so much for coming to this event. We've been planning this for some time, both in mind and in heart. We knew that to have a James Jones event, it had to be in person. Zoom was just not going to work for this kind of event. We needed to see the smiles, we needed to have the hugs, and we needed to have just the connectedness of this. So we were patient and we waited, and we're just so excited to have everybody here with us tonight. It's a bit of a homecoming. I'm so thrilled to see some great mix of people that are currently working with us here, as well as people that have left and returned. It's a bit of a homecoming, so it's so great to see everybody. I want to start by thanking the people. Sometimes I forget, and I do this, I try to do it at the end, but I forget, and then I go home and beat myself up the rest of the night for not thanking the people that said so much to do in the planning. So let me begin with Kathy Rubenstein and Kat Hand from our marketing department, who are so key on this. We had a small planning committee, Dr. Tracy Breen, Dr. Samuel Seward, and Dr. Larry Attia. We had a lot of fun, enjoyed doing this, but you guys were great. And then we had this other amazing individual. Where is she? She's got to step up front. She tends to hide. She probably knows I was going to thank her. But if you look around the room, anything you see that has any touch of class or elegance had nothing to do with me. Norma Carrasquillo is the master planner, the master of detail, and she is amazing. Just before, I didn't say that Norma. So I'm in there before, and you will see these later during the dinner hour. There's cookies in there, and they have a little memento on it. Dr. James Jones, Young Physician Service and Innovation Award. And I said, boy, did you see what the kitchen did? Norma made these last night with her sister-in-law. And I've had these before. These are almond cookies, and you must have them. So congratulations to our awardee, Dr. James Salonia. Welcome to his wife, Alexandra, and young Tommy. Tommy was born January 2nd. We'll probably hear more from him this evening. And then I want to welcome and acknowledge the family of Dr. James Jones, family and friends. I want to acknowledge Clara and James' son, Cody, James's parents, Pete and Bridget. We've got cousin Diane and her husband Brian Lee and the three sons. We've got Brendan, we've got Sean, and Aiden, who spent some time with us as a volunteer and is shot up like a rocket. So welcome to the Lee family. And Clara's mother, Ella. I have to say, and it's heartbreaking that Clara, too, is no longer with us. Many of us here tonight have had the privilege of knowing Clara, and we feel her loss deeply. Clara was kind, warm, fun, full of energy, and full of optimism. And mostly she was full of love. James would often tell me how supportive she was of his career and what an amazing mother she was. They were just so great together. We smiled because they lived, and we cherished the memories that they left us. So let me just tell you a bit about the program tonight. We've got a really nice program. So myself and Dr. Attia, my committee planning cohort, we're going to talk about James's history at the hospital. Then Dr. Breen, our chief medical officer, will speak to our vision for the award over the coming years. Then we'll hear from Dr. Seward, our chair in the Department of Medicine, who has had the privilege to work with both Dr. Jones and Dr. Salonia. And he'll really highlight the unique talents that James Salonia has. I'm flipping between the Jameses here. These guys, and this is a bit of a story here. So James Jones, I remember when he told me, something happens to these Jameses when they come into practice medicine, because James Jones, prior to medical school and coming to St. Luke's, I understood, to the family, Jim and Jimmy, right? James Salonia, pre-hospital, also went by a different name. He was Jay, right? J-A-Y? Yeah. So I don't know what it is. You guys suddenly feel you need to grow up and turn into adults when you come here. They become James all of a sudden. So I'll begin with our great story of Dr. James Jones. He arrived at the hospital in 2001. He came to our internal medicine program. It's a 3-year training program. He arrived with a bang, right? Dr. Jermaine Chan is here. She remembers him fondly. She said to me the other day, when he arrived on day one, he was the mayor of the hospital. So there was no mistaking who was James. So 3 years of internal medicine training, went on to become chief resident in the Department of Medicine, and then he really likes his education stuff, went on to do a fellowship in nephrology, and then followed by 2-year fellowship in critical care. What's remarkable is 6 of the 7 years of his training, he won Teacher of the Year award. That is, I guess I could check with the archives committee, who won the year that he did not win, right? We gotta find that person. I think they may have had a rule that you could not win in consecutive years, so they had to give it to somebody else. So he finishes his training, and then it's time to find a job as an attending physician. As it turned out, there was, he wanted a job in critical care medicine. We didn't have one at the time. The chairman of medicine at the time, Dr. Michael Lesh, was very specific. And Dr. Lesh, for those that didn't know him, he came to us, I forget the exact year, but he was chairman at Henry Ford Health System for 10 years in the Department of Medicine. And I don't know what the gentle way of saying this is, but he didn't tolerate fools, right? But he loved James Jones. And he was very specific to Dr. Cooley, saying, I need you to find him a job. So we partnered and we got creative, and we found Dr. Jones a position, which was probably the best hire we ever did here. He was just a force of nature. So he's an attending physician, and then it's a rocket, just increasing jobs of responsibility and diversity. He had positions in the fellowship programs as an associate program director. He had positions of leadership in quality, positions of leadership in informatics, so all things IT. He was a director of medical informatics and quality. And then this thing that sounds kind of, it's called clinical documentation initiatives. As I look at his partners here, Dr. Luke Herman, and I think Dr. Farber was attempting to make it here, but these guys really understood the mechanics of how to document well, which relates to quality, but it's really a driver and an engine of the hospital's finances. And he was an expert in it and a leader in that. And by the time, over the years, he became a leader in the health system in that effort. At the end, in all these different roles, Dr. Flato had the wisdom to say, you know what, we created a role as a vice president for administration on Dr. Flato's leadership team because people were getting too many pieces of him. We need to have him. And he did that full time, and he was just incredible without words. I recall there was one of the fun things about this is you talk to people, you're coming to the event. And in fact, it was yesterday I said to our vice president of human resources, Devin Sullivan, hey, you're coming to the Dr. Jones event tomorrow. And he immediately, as a lot of people do, they pivot to the story of their James Jones story. And he immediately said, I remember when I started here, I was the newbie in the VP of operations meeting, and I'm listening week after week, and there's this Jones guy in the meeting, right? And every week he's talking in great depth and great detail about different topics, IT, finance, coding, quality. But at the end, he just was trying to peg who this guy was. And then after he figured out he's a doctor, and he was just blown away by the talents that he brought to the table. So, with all that, I'm just going to talk a bit about what made James Jones so special and so unique. And there's a list of qualities, and I'm just going to highlight those, and I'll forget many, and I'm sure others have their own special list of talents. But as a leader, James was very skilled in seeing the big picture, right? He could really grasp the big picture. But what set him apart was that he dug into the details of things, and he wanted to understand it really deeply. And boy, was he a quick study. So he'd be curious, he'd dig down, he'd understand it, and then he'd become expert. And that, in the end, made him, I think, really, an empathetic leader, right? Because he understood the challenges of the people that worked with him and for him. He knew what they were dealing with, and the solutions to problems that he saw were really practical and different than a lot of solutions we may get. His solutions worked, right? So he was just a phenomenal, inspirational leader in that respect. James was just an amazing listener. He really took the time, and he wasn't looking around. He was laser focused on you and listening. I know, spent time with James Salonia as, James trained a bit under him, and I remember very clearly, this is so true, and James and I we'd have our morning talks and talk through. We were closely together. I mean, dear friend, miss him beyond words. But James, after working with James Salonia, said to me several times, this guy's got it. He's the real deal. We need to support him, because he saw a future leader in James Salonia, and he was genuine in that, and he did that with others. I mean, there's people here that knew that he was, on their side, and he was going to help them advance their careers, and that's what he did, and he was so genuine about it. James Jones, he showed up every day. He showed up with a smile. He showed up prepared, and enthusiastic and passionate. If he was in a project, it wasn't 1 foot in, 1 foot out. It was all in, all the time. And there was, when the big things had to get done around here, so if we're putting in an IT system, if there's some kind of emergency, that's the guy you want to lead the team. People wanted to be on his team. They wanted to follow him. They were inspired by him, and it was fun, right? And the IT examples with the go lives, it was in his words, quote, game on when we went live, right? And it was probably more than that too, because it was you had to have fun, but he was, in the best way, competitive. He was very proud of this hospital, and if we had to go live across 7 hospitals, the hospital that we were leading with James we had to be the best. And we were, because he led it. That's why we were the best. And again, he was not. He shared his knowledge across the system. He was just known to everybody, loved by everybody, and admired by everybody. Hey, Tommy. And I'm going to share a story, and this is so true. James was completely authentic, and I'm going to share a story that Luke Herman told that I love this story about his genuineness and who James was. So Luke tells a story of when Luke and James were interviewing somebody. It must have been in the world of CDI or something. They had a candidate there progressing through the interview. They get to a standard question, and James says to the candidate, well, tell me something that you wish you could do better, right? And as Luke tells it, the person's a little puzzled, didn't quite understand it. So James Jones helps the person out and says to them, well, let me tell you something I wish I could do better. And he says, I wish I could speak the English language better. This is a vice president, Mount Sinai Hospital, pretty good health system, right? He's triple boarded, in some pretty good, thoughtful specialties, saying to the person, I wish I could speak the English language better. And I can just picture Luke going, what are you doing? But that's who James was, completely authentic, always James, and completely without an ego. And that's who he was. He never tried to be somebody that he was not. And it's just, Luke tells that story much better than me because he was there. And we've said it before, and anyone you talk to will tell you that James made work fun. And I would just give anything to hear his words again. I love it. Anyone that knows James, it's I love it, right? Big and loud and too funny, right? If you said something good, he would go too funny. And that, you just felt good if you said something that got a too funny. And then, I'm not sure if he's here, but again, I love hearing the stories as you talk to people. And I hadn't heard this before, and it just got a chuckle out of it. Malcolm Reed, our chair of rehab medicine, we're talking about the event, and he immediately went to that place of his immediate memory. And it was like when we had a St. Luke's Roosevelt gala, and we had it at St. John the Divine Church, across from St. Luke's, black tux. And one of the first dances, Malcolm's with his wife, Emily. James is with Clara. They're out there having, the first dance, and James makes his way over, says to Malcolm, and without saying both, I was there, both, Emily and Clara looked beautiful, right? James says to Malcolm, I didn't know this was a daddy-daughter dance. And Malcolm was kicking himself that, he made it sound like he was going to use the line, but James beat him to it. But I can just picture James Jones just, he could crack other people up, but he cracked himself up too, and he'd laugh at his own, and he would crack up after he heard that, I'm certain. But, long list of things. There could be many, many more. He was fun, brilliant, team player, all these things. But, he was just a really good guy. I mean, he was kind and he was caring. And I've told this story before. It's just an example for me that I just remembered with such fondness. It was a patient that was admitted to the hospital. James was a nephrologist, took care of dialysis patients. Sick patient comes in. They're doing a health history. And they ask, and this is a patient without any family, they ask next of kin. And the person gave the next of kin as, his friend, Dr. James Jones, because that's how close he was. And, James was just that kind of person. And I'm certain that patient and many, many other patients in the dialysis centers had James's cell phone number, as we all did. So, this event it's just been a labor of love for us, right? I've talked about our chance to connect with people and get such great memories. One of the connections, Hani Judah. Connie's in from Dallas. That's how much Hani feels about this. But Hani was a great partner. He was a leader in the Department of and still is part of our Department of Medicine, but in the training programs, and then worked very closely in the world of CDI. But when I called Hani, two things stick out to me. One is I told Hani about the events and how we're going to do this every year, and how we're going to honor a young physician. And Hani was quick and very excited about it. And I couldn't tell him the rest of it, but Hani said, "I've got the perfect person for the award." I said, "Slow down, Hani. We did this already. We got a winner." But I said, "Go ahead. Let me hear what you got." He had Salonia. He said he's the perfect. And I have to say, how many other people in this room that I've heard that from, that just Dr. Salonia just embodies the qualities and the kind of, we're just so fortunate to have Dr. Salonia with us. And so Hani, that's my one story. My second Hani, and this was kind of cool. I said, "Hani, can I tell this?" He said, "Yeah." But Hani's a new dad too. And Hani named his son James, and he was able to share that with Clara, and it's a great honor, and thank you for sharing that with us. So my last story, and then I'm going to turn the baton over here, is in what year was this? This was 2014. So, there's the bronze. There we are. This was James was honored as the Roosevelt Alumni Association Distinguished Young Faculty Member of the Year. This was the 131st annual event, so they've been at that a long time. He was presented by Dr. Stan Cortell, the Chief of Nephrology. It was just a great night. I went to the event with my wife, Nancy. We sat with James and Clara, and we just had a blast all night, before and after, because obviously there was an after-hours party, which he's gathering his troops throughout, which was tons of fun. But what my memory here that's really sticks with me is, it's all when James got up to speak, he was really, his words were elegant and beautiful. So he did have pretty good command of the English language after all. But he was so overtaken with emotion of just the recognition, the love of his family, the love of the staff that are there to recognize him. And I think I know he did. He truly loved these hospitals. And it meant so much to him that he was a bit overcome at the event. And I think, as exceptional as James was, he just never believed he was. And it just kind of overwhelmed him. And I think he would have felt the same way about tonight. I think that's what he would have felt tonight. And it's just sticks with me, and I'll never forget it. So in closing, I do have a closing. I wasn't going to go on all night. So James Jones remains in our hearts and in our thoughts, and he continues to inspire us. Legacy is about leaving something in people, and that is what James did. I think if he, James Jones, were to give advice to us all, I imagine it would be very James-like, very simple and to the point, something along the lines of work hard, be kind to people. He might say, don't be a jerk, but then amazing things can happen. Work hard and be kind to people. I cannot think of a better winner for this first award than Dr. James Salonia. And as I mentioned before, I've heard this from so many people. Dr. Salonia embodies so many of these great qualities that Dr. James Jones had. Congratulations, Dr. Salonia. Dr. Attia.
Tim, you took a lot of my stories and went on. I should go first next time. I should have remembered that. First of all, I'm thrilled to be here to remember my friend and colleague, Dr. James Jones. I'm Larry Attia. I've been here my whole career as a medical student, as a trainee, and my whole career as an attending. And I was lucky enough to meet Dr. Jones when I was a young internal medicine, when he was a resident, and I was a ward attending up at Mount Sinai Morningside, which was called St. Luke's back then, and we clicked. And it turned into a meaningful professional mentorship and friendship that was cut so short. James was a problem solver, as Tim described, so an innovation award in his honor is a perfect fit. He focused on solving clinical puzzles as a physician, and also logistically with hospital operations and administration. And the work we did with the electronic medical record system, the EMR, to provide more efficient patient care with better documentation and record keeping has really helped the bottom line perhaps, but also our patients and our staff every day in terms of the way we take care of patients here. He'd certainly help brainstorm and problem solve and innovate with a hands-on approach, with humor and laughter, energy and enthusiasm, as you've heard already. And I fondly remember walking floor to floor. I guess after we merged with Mount Sinai, we had to change everyone's medical record number to match and be independent and separate. And so at midnight on some day in 2015 or 16, we had to convert everyone's armband at midnight and change all the systems that had medical record numbers at the same time. And it was a scary night. You know, we've got to get medications and barcoding and everything like that. And we'd walk, Dr. Flato joined us, and we walked from 14 and stopped at every floor to answer questions and discuss what was going on and see where there were problems. And he was hands-on, and he would deal with the nursing staff and nursing leadership, but also with the food service and custodial staff and everyone else who was around, and really connected with everybody and knew everyone by their first name. It was incredible as we walked through the hospital. So no one likes change, and everyone sort of holds back with change, but he tried to make it fun and really change that attitude. So that was one of my memories about how we attacked some of these major events. When a hospital has a challenge, like a new computer system or a software upgrade or even a weather event like a snowstorm, we create a command center to manage staff and information and expectations and supplies. And James was at his very best during these stressful times. So of course, when a command center was needed for a worldwide pandemic, we missed him and thought of him so often. In fact, we all agree that the nightmare of COVID-19 would have been significantly more fun with James around. What is remembered lives on. James would have loved this very event, a ceremony when he'd likely sit in the back and text and prank other members of the crowd during the meeting or during the session. And then he'd either bother the speaker by heckling or planting a question that we know can't be answered so easily. And then he'd love the reception. James loved to party. And then when things quiet down at 7 o'clock, as Tim mentioned, there'd probably be an after party going out way into the night that he'd convince everyone to join him. James was special and his contributions were significant. His spirit lives on, and he's part of the Mount Sinai family. This is the first award ceremony, but I want Cody to know that his dad, James Jones, was an amazing physician in person. Congratulations to James Salonia, who is so deserving of this special honor. This award was specifically intended to honor Dr. Jones and his amazing qualities. And so I'm going to introduce Dr. Tracy Breen, our Chief Medical Officer here at Mount Sinai West, who will talk about the exciting award and what it's all about. So thank you. Thank you for being here, and congratulations.
Thank you, Dr. Attia. It is so good to see everybody in person. You know, we've been talking and planning this for a long time, and then something like COVID happened, which just ruined everything on so many levels. But we really wanted to wait until we could gather in person and break bread together and celebrate. So I'm only going to tell one story. I wasn't going to tell a story, but Tim reminded me of it. So I landed in 2014. James was on my welcoming committee, so I had to deal with these two knuckleheads every day. We're running a hospital. It was hilarious. They were amazing. Like, Tim and James every day would start the day, and I always felt like James was just finishing working. He was just everywhere. I'd go around a corner, and he was there. I'm going in the stairwell, he was there. I go in the cafeteria, he's there. I come in to get sign out or something, he's there. I was like, how can you be everywhere? But anyway, the day in question is that alumni ceremony that Tim very elegantly remembered. And, oh, James got this award, and he was so thankful, and everyone was very proud of him. I remember this day, because it's a work day and there's an after work event. What do I know? I'm the new kid, right? And I probably am wearing like something like this, seems appropriate, like business attire. And we're sitting in Tim's office. I remember this like it was yesterday. And I'm, with the knuckleheads again. This is all I can say. And they say, so you gonna wear that tonight? I was like, yeah. I was like, I thought so. And they start saying, oh, I don't know. And it's like they get pretty gussied up there. I was like, what do you mean they get gussied up? And they start in their version, in their Tim and James version, trying to explain to me what the ladies wear. And that's a whole conversation there. And then I thought they were joking. So I'm like, okay, very funny guys. And James looks, he's like, no, we're really serious. Like, you can't wear that. I was like, what? So then I find myself in a cab to Bloomingdale's at like 4 in the afternoon. You remember, 4 in the afternoon. I got to get shoes. I got to get hose. I got to get undergarments. I got this whole thing. I'm like barely going to make it. And on the way in the cab over, I've got all these bags. And I text James a picture of all my stuff. And I get a single text back. You know what it was? LMAO. So there we go. So thank you, Mr. Day. I'd forgotten about that. And I still have that dress. Thank you. And it was, in fact, a lovely night. So back to my prepared remarks. I'm Dr. Tracy Breen. I'm the Chief Medical Officer here at Mount Sinai West. Happily for me, James was part of the welcoming committee when I took on this role in 2014. He was obviously woven into the fabric of the then SLR community, and everyone knew that he was always available to help solve any problem at any time. James was smart, funny, fast-moving, and even faster thinking and talking. He was always looking out for staff and colleagues and did not differentiate between the arbitrary hierarchies that can exist in a hospital. That is a unique feature. And on a personal note for me, he just made work so much more fun. For those who are doctors, I always said that working with James made me feel like a resident again, only in a good way, right? In the days after his loss, our leadership team knew that we would need to create something very special to both remember James as a treasured member of our community and to continue to inspire us by his exceptional leadership. And so we are pleased today to celebrate our inaugural James Jones Young Physician Service and Innovation Award. This annual award, along with an honorarium, was created to recognize a junior attending physician at Mount Sinai West and Mount Sinai Morningside who, through their work and professionalism, embody many of the qualities Dr. Jones exemplified. I will tell you, the brainstorming session for what's this award going to be about was super fun and super fast, right? It was down and dirty. In about 15 minutes, we said, boom, 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 boom. We said, how do we make that sound fancier? And then we worked on that. We wordsmithed that. But it was very easy to do because we knew what it was that we wanted to capture and what we wanted everyone in our community to know that we celebrate and value, right? We talk about our values a lot, and these are qualities that we're looking for that really just transform leadership. A can-do spirit, otherwise known whistle while you work. The challenge is never greater than one's determination to overcome it. Faith in technology and its capacity to simplify and organize workflows. James never met an IT problem he wasn't willing to tackle. Faith in people, in particular the next generation of physician leaders. Humor, obviously, that each human-created problem is inherently worthy of laughter. I cannot emphasize enough how important humor is. Our work is hard. We literally save lives. No exaggeration. And the work can be hard and challenging and serious, but we spend a lot of time at work and it better be fun. That's what I tell people all the time. You spend a lot of time here, you got to find a way to find the humor and make it fun because this is where we exist. Teamwork and collaboration, working outside the box, new problems require new solutions, and finally, innovation. So, and because of the incredible generosity of Dr. Jones's colleagues, friends, and family, this annual award will also support sending a selected junior faculty member to the Academy for Healthcare Leadership Advancement. I just want to talk about this program a little bit because James went through it, thought it was amazing, and I think it's a really great program. So this is a program run jointly by Haney's, which is the Healthcare Association of New York State, and Cornell University. The tagline of their program is "Leaders are made here." Seems like a good thing for us to get on board with. Certainly reflected in James' leadership. So I want to read briefly. The Academy helps healthcare organizations advance their leadership capabilities and position themselves to compete in an increasingly complex environment. It combines the in-depth healthcare system knowledge of Haney's with the executive education expertise of Cornell University, one of the nation's premier universities and business schools. So I think us being able to send every year someone to this academy and hopefully do some other educational learning opportunities is a wonderful legacy. And as a leadership team and as friends and colleagues of James, we can't think of a better way to honor his legacy at Mount Sinai West and Mount Sinai Warningside than to recognize, celebrate, and invest in our next generation of physician leaders. So it's a pleasure to be here. I can't wait to see you all at the reception. And I'd now like to hand over to Dr. Samuel Seward, our chair and professor of medicine. Thank you.
Well, welcome to everybody. It's just echoing all the comments before me. It's just really wonderful to have all of you with us. I have the distinct honor of talking a little bit about James Salonia, our inaugural awardee. He is the program director of the Fellowship in Healthcare Simulation. He's also the medical director of the Progressive Care Unit here at Mount Sinai West, and he's an assistant professor of medicine at Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai. He completed his residency and 2 fellowships with us, his residency in internal medicine, and then he did a fellowship in pulmonary and critical care, followed by a fellowship in simulation, which is one of his passions and one of the places he expresses his innovative spirit. He's certified in critical care echocardiography. He's certified in pulmonary diseases. He's certified in critical care medicine, of course, certified in internal medicine. And James, none of that is why you're getting the award tonight. So you've heard James is a young faculty. He's an emerging faculty, use Dr. Flato's language. His CV, which I got from him yesterday, is 29 pages long. In those 29 pages, there's 6 pages devoted to mentorship, all the people that he's already mentored in his young career, including Tom. So students, residents, fellows, colleagues who are already faculty, 6 pages of those people James Salonia has mentored, much in the spirit of the named award James Jones. There's a page and a half devoted to his committee work. So James Salonia sits on the sepsis committee, the quality committee. He's on the organ donation committee. He's on the committee that evaluates our critical care and pulmonary fellowships, and many, many others. James has publications and presentations that go on for several pages as well. And what I loved about the presentations is he's bringing, for example, POCUS, which is point of care ultrasound, so many places, for example, to our OBGYN colleagues and helping them understand how to use it in that theater. Also around sepsis and helping people outside of medicine. Sepsis tends to be kind of a medicine-owned thing, but talking to people in all other parts of the hospital about the importance of recognizing sepsis early and saving lives. So James, it's really for those reasons, for your innovative spirit, for your desire to always help, for your willingness to mentor whoever you think needs mentorship, but more importantly, people that come to you for mentorship, that we were all so unified. And we had a number of really wonderful candidates for this award, but we were also unified in thinking you were the right person this year, and congratulations. Be careful with it.
Tiffany, wow.
But it's a token of how proud we are of you. So
Thank you so
congratulations.
much. There we go. Oh, beautiful. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. And good evening, everybody. It's such a pleasure to be here to celebrate with all of you, to be mentioned with Dr. James Jones. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. Special thank you to our hospital leadership, Dr. Flato, who was just here a moment ago, Dr. Attia, Mr. Day, Dr. Seward, and Dr. Breen, for organizing this amazing celebration and for your very kind words and thoughtful words. My wife was here. I was going to thank her for, oh, there she is. Thank you to my wife, Alexandra, for being here tonight and allowing me to work so much as James did, especially with a new baby at home. And obviously, Tommy was able to make it tonight, which is great. But most importantly, thank you to the family of Dr. James Jones for being here. James was more than a colleague or a friend to us here. He was family. His presence is still greatly missed. And so this here, and all of us, we're here to celebrate the legacy of Dr. James Jones and everything he did for us and, the impact he has and continues to have on us in so many ways. Tonight, I see in the room so many amazing individuals. I see Dr. Rose was able to make it, which is fantastic. Dedicated physicians, Dr. Sotelo as well, and outstanding leaders, who are all inspired and impacted by Dr. James Jones. And as you've heard, each of us shares our own unique stories with him. And, my special story is when I was a second-year resident. That's the first time I met James. And I was a second-year resident in the ICU. And, James was the night attending on call, and he worked tons even when he was doing all his administrative work. And, as we were rounding, he could tell I was extremely nervous. I felt like I had no idea what I was doing in the ICU. But as we were rounding on the patients, James Jones greeted me with one of his famous quotes. He had many, but one of his famous quotes was "strong work." And I know, Joe, you remember that. And I thought, I like this guy. As we started moving through the patients, I heard, "Strong work, James, strong work." And that made such a huge impact on me. And, I'll never forget, how James made everyone feel. And he knew how to empower people. He knew how to make us better. He knew how to make us, become better physicians, better individuals. And I'll always remember that because that's one of the defining moments in my career and one of the major reasons why I went into critical care is my experience with him. James was a brilliant physician. He was as you can hear, he was a transformational leader, visionary leader. But when I think of James, I think of him as that dedicated and passionate mentor. And, everything he did was for other people. And there's a room full of individuals here who can testify to that. And he made such a meaningful impact on everybody. He knew that his smallest words of encouragement can make a huge difference in the lives of the people around him. And certainly his words of encouragement for me during that night made a big difference. And as I said, one of the reasons why I went into critical care. I want to obviously thank everyone for coming here tonight, but thank my family, my friends who are here, my colleagues. But most importantly, I want to thank Dr. James Jones for providing us for an exceptional standard to live up to. And he was just such a meaningful and impactful person to all of us. And, we'll never forget him. And I think this is such a fantastic way to honor him and to celebrate him. And I can only hope, to be even compared to somebody like Dr. James Jones. It's just so meaningful to me. So thank you, everybody, for this wonderful celebration. Look forward to, speaking with all the family, meeting everyone tonight. But thank you so much for coming out here. And thank you to all our administration, our family here at Mount Sinai. Thank you very much.
We're going to close the program. I want to give an opportunity. I think John, James's brother-in-law, was going to just say a brief word.
I just want to take a moment to thank everybody here. I was traveling in the car, driving over here with Pete and Breach, Jim's parents. Sorry, you call him Jim. I got such a chuckle talking to Dr. T that you go by James, but you were Jay before. I'm like, all right, I relate to that because we really struggle to say James. I'm trying. Jimmy or Jim to us. we were reflecting on right and what, you know, what a special event this is, not just the event, but what you put here is the ultimate legacy. And this is the part, you know, that, you know, he made an impact. And the stories, thanks for the historian, that when we hear the story, I can speak for all the people here, the stories are just, when you hear it, just brings everything back to you. They're all of us here. But think about the impact he made. But how many people have an ability to that legacy to continue? And have an award like this, and have your ability to recognize people like yourself, Dr. Salonia. And it's so amazing. The first one is James, and embodies so many aspects of it. But that this can continue on in perpetuity. And so thank you so much to the entire Sinai staff and everybody here, the extended and all the family who made the trip here. Because this is for our family, this is a wonderful tribute to a special person. And to know that this is going to continue on, and that this hospital, you know, it's clear we knew this was his second family, just the way he glowed about his work. But you can just feel it all. And the stories, it's just, it's great to hear them come back. So looking forward to getting to know you a little better, James, Dr. Jay. But really look forward for us to get to know you a little better here afterwards. And sincere thank you on behalf of our family. This is what a special event. To everybody here who made this possible. So, thank you.
So we've got some catching up to do with the people in the crowd here. So I'm going to bring this part of the program to a close and really encourage everybody. We're just going to walk through the next room here, and we're kind of spread out. Chef Eric has really put a lot of time, effort, and love into this, and I think we'll enjoy the offerings, but I'm really looking forward to catching up with everybody and maybe learning some new stories I haven't heard before. So thank you all so much, and thank you to the family, and congratulations to James.